Imagine meeting someone who has never used a smartphone. Not once. They've never checked social media, never scrolled endlessly through videos, never searched for answers on the internet. No notifications, no online arguments, no constant stream of information, just silence. In a world where the average person spends several hours every day on screens, this kind of life almost feels impossible. Yet millions of people around the world still live this way. And when psychologists study them, something fascinating appears. Their brains often function very differently from the brains of people constantly exposed to technology. They think differently. They focus differently. They even experience time and memory differently. But the real surprise is this. In some ways, people who have never used modern technology may possess mental advantages that many highly connected people have slowly lost. Advantages related to attention, memory, emotional stability, and deep thinking. So in this video, we're going to explore the psychology of people who have never used phones or the internet. We'll examine what happens inside their brains, how their thinking patterns develop, whether their minds are actually healthier, and why some psychologists believe the modern brain is quietly changing because of technology. But there's one ability in particular, a cognitive power that many technology users slowly lose over time. And people who grow up without constant digital exposure often keep it for life. We'll come back to that later. To understand the difference, we first need to understand the modern brain. Today, most people interact with technology almost constantly. Phones buzz, notifications appear, messages arrive, videos autoplay, information flows endlessly. Every notification triggers a small burst of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. Dopamine is what makes scrolling feel satisfying, but this constant stimulation changes how the brain processes attention. The brain becomes trained to expect frequent novelty, something new, something exciting, something immediate. As a result, many people find it harder to sit quietly with their thoughts. Moments of silence can even feel uncomfortable. But for people who have never used digital technology, the brain develops in a completely different environment. Their attention systems are shaped by longer periods of uninterrupted focus. One of the most noticeable psychological differences is attention span. People who grow up without constant digital stimulation often develop stronger, sustained attention. Their brain becomes comfortable focusing on a single task for extended periods. Reading, working, observing, thinking. In contrast, many technology users experience frequent attention switching, checking messages, switching apps, watching short clips. This pattern trains the brain to jump rapidly between stimuli. Over time, the brain becomes less comfortable with slow tasks that require patience. This doesn't mean technology destroys attention, but it does reshape how attention works. People without constant digital exposure often retain the ability to focus deeply without interruption. And that ability is becoming increasingly rare. Technology has also changed how humans use memory. When information is always available online, the brain begins to rely less on storing facts internally. Psychologists call this cognitive offloading. Instead of remembering something, people remember where to find it. Search engines become external memory systems. But individuals who grow up without the internet often rely heavily on their own memory. They may remember directions, phone numbers, historical stories, practical knowledge, because their brain must store this information internally. This constant practice strengthens certain types of memory. Their mind becomes a more active storage system. Another striking difference is the experience of mental silence. People constantly exposed to information streams often experience continuous cognitive input, news, videos, messages, opinions, arguments. The brain rarely rests, but individuals who live without constant digital exposure often experience longer periods of quiet thought, moments where the brain processes ideas slowly and naturally. This quiet mental space is extremely important for something psychologists call default mode thinking. The default mode network is the brain system responsible for reflection, creativity, self-understanding, imagination. When the brain is constantly stimulated, this network becomes less active. But when the mind is allowed to wander naturally, creativity often increases. And this is why some people report their best ideas while walking, resting, or doing simple tasks. People without digital distractions often experience this state more frequently. Technology also affects emotional processing. Social media platforms constantly expose users to comparisons, other people's achievements, other people's lifestyles, other people's opinions. This constant comparison can influence mood and self-esteem, but individuals without exposure to these digital environments often compare themselves less frequently. Their social world is smaller but more direct. They interact primarily with people physically present in their lives. As a result, their emotional environment may feel more stable and predictable. Their identity is shaped more by real relationships than by online perception. One of the most underrated mental states is boredom. Modern technology almost completely eliminates boredom. Whenever a moment of emptiness appears, people reach for their phones. But boredom serves an important psychological purpose. When the brain is bored, it begins searching for stimulation internally. This internal search often leads to creativity, problem solving, imagination. People without constant digital entertainment experience boredom more often, and as a result, their brain becomes more skilled at generating its own stimulation. Perhaps the greatest cognitive advantage of a technology-free lifestyle is deep thinking. Deep thinking requires time, silence, patience. When people are constantly switching attention between notifications and content, their thinking often becomes fragmented. But individuals who live without constant digital input may spend longer periods reflecting on ideas. They may read slowly, observe carefully, analyze situations in detail. This kind of thinking has historically produced many of humanity's greatest insights. This raises an important question. Do people without technology have better brains? The answer is more nuanced. Technology provides incredible benefits: access to knowledge, global communication, learning opportunities. But like any powerful tool, it also changes behavior. The brain adapts to whatever environment it experiences most frequently. A brain exposed to constant digital stimulation becomes excellent at rapid information processing. A brain raised without constant stimulation becomes excellent at sustained focus and internal reflection. Each environment shapes different strengths. People who live without constant digital stimulation often develop abilities that many modern individuals struggle with. They may possess stronger patience, greater tolerance for silence, better focus, more direct social presence, and perhaps most importantly, they may retain the ability to sit with their own thoughts comfortably. For many modern individuals, this simple ability has become surprisingly difficult. Technology has transformed the human experience. It connects billions of people. It delivers information instantly, and it reshapes how our brains interact with the world. But occasionally stepping back from constant digital stimulation reveals something important. The human brain evolved long before smartphones existed, and some of its most powerful abilities emerge in moments of quiet, focus, reflection, creativity. Understanding these differences helps us become more aware of how our habits shape our minds. Because the goal isn't to abandon technology. The goal is to use it without losing the mental strengths that existed before it. If you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more deep psychological insights. And before you leave, here's a question I'd love you to think about. Do you believe technology is strengthening the human mind, or slowly weakening some of its most powerful abilities? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because sometimes the most interesting answers come from simply observing how we live.